Hey, good evening. Hope you're all doing well. A good Hoshana Rabbah and a good Erev Shabbos and a good Erev Yantif. Please God, this should be a beautiful Yantif filled with Simcha. We had just learned a machlokes in the previous Gemara, a machlokes that played out between Rabbi Yossi and Rabbi Yehuda, and the case was the one that we were talking about earlier of Hamakadesh Bechelko. If a man tried to be Makadesh a woman with a portion of a korban, would they be considered married? Remember the story, Reb Meir died, Rabbi Yehuda said to the Talmidim, none of the Talmidim are allowed in the base medrash. Simcha snuck in, he taught this din. Lemaisa Reb Yossi pushed Reb Meir, pushed Rabbi Yehuda to paskin on it, and Rabbi Yehuda says that if a person is Mekadesh a woman with a chelek of a korban, so a korban that's kadshe kachim or kachim kalim. So the halacha is that according to Rabbi Yehuda, they're mekudeshes. According to Rabbi Yossi, they're not a machlokes. So it says the Gemara on the last few words of Nun Beis Mid Beis, Amar Rav Yochanan, onto the top of Nun Gimel Amud Aleph, that it's really not a machlokes anymore. Nimnu v'gamru. They voted. And what did they say? Hamekadesh bechelko, a person who proposes to a woman with a chelek of his korban, Ben kache kachim uvein kachim kalim lo kiddush. It's a 0, and this is even aliba the Rabbi Yehuda. Uniquely, this is even according to the shita of Rabbi Yehuda. However, much as Rav Yochanan says that there's no longer a machlokes about this, Rav disagrees. So there's a machlokes if we have a machlokes. According to Rav Yochanan, there's no machlokes lo kiddush. If a man proposes with a chilek from a korban, they're not married. According to Rav, there still is a machlokes. Second line, Rav Amar Adain hi machlokes. However, Amar Abaye Kavase, the Rav Yochanan Mistabra. Abaye, who was a couple of generations later, 3 generations later, he was of the opinion that Rav Yochanan is right, that there is no machlokes anymore. We're right now going to learn a longer brisa. The brisa is about, that will take us down till about 2/3 of the way down, and then we'll see how we prove that Rabbi Yochanan is right. That's Abaye's tactic. The Tanya. Let's say that you and I were Kohanim, and they're apportioning out different things that are given out to Kohanim, parts of a korban mincha, parts of a korban zvachim, whatever the case may be. What if you and I want to do tradesies? Let's say, I'm sure it didn't happen that there were Kohanim that were vegetarians. That doesn't make any sense. But if there were, so then maybe the vegetarian would say, I'll take 2 portions of a mincha, and you'll take 2 portions of a zevach, of the animal. Reasonable? Says the Brisa, no way. The Tanya. You're not allowed to trade with other kohanim. That which is allocated to you as a mincha goes to you. That which is given to you as a korban goes to you. You can't trade your portion to anybody else. The Gemara says, how do we know you're not allowed to do tradesies? And from this pasuk, the Chachamim learn that the Kohanim are not allowed to trade anything. Whatever was theirs, and that's what they kept. Yeah. What? Nothing to do with value. Now we'll see. You'll see in a minute how all this plays out. Perhaps we should say that the reason why menachos and zvachim, why flour korbanos and animal korbanos can't be traded is shalokamu tachteim b'dalus, is because mincha is often a replacement for certain korbanos, but not for zvachim. Says the Gemara, but perhaps aval yichalku menachos keneged ofos sharei kamu tachtein b'dalus. But we know from Chumash that if a person's not able to afford a korban that's a bird, he's allowed to replace with menachos. And perhaps, says the Gemara, welcome. Perhaps, says the Gemara, that maybe we should say that because a korban mincha can replace a bird, maybe I can do my portion with a bird. You and I can trade bird portions for menachos portions. Talmud Lomar, 9 lines down or so on Nun Gimel Amud Aleph, because of this pasuk, which is basically extraneous, we therefore see that even if it were to be that the menachos, which is a reasonable replacement for ophos, still no tradesies. Yachol, perhaps we should say that there's a reason for that. Lo yachalku menachos keneged ophos shalalu mine damim v'alalu mine kmachim. Maybe there's a difference between flour and there's a difference between birds because one is flour and one is blood. They're just not the same profile. They're not the same thing. But perhaps but maybe we should be able to do tradesies. Me and you as a Kohen, I prefer chicken, you prefer meat. Everybody's happy. I'll take 2 portions of chicken, you take 2 portions of meat. Not allowed. Tamalomer al machavas, because that's another type of korban for menachos. And we learn from these extraneous words that no tradesies even for two things of the same type. Says the Gemara, all right, well, maybe there's a svara there. Maybe the reason why we can't do tradesies when it comes to birds and ophos is that the birds were killed by malika, by the nail of the kohen. Masha'enkin with regular zvachim, they were shechted with a shchita knife. Fine. Aval, perhaps a third of the way down, maybe yechalku menachos keneged menachos shalalu v'halalu ma'asehim biyad. But maybe if you like flour that's barley flour and I like flour that's wheat flour, I'll take a double of barley. You take a double of wheat. Says the Gemara again. No tradesies here either. Talmud Lomar minchas belulav Hashem and l'chol bnei Aaron. Any type of mincha that has oil in it, nothing to trade. Nothing at all. Everybody must take the portions that are given to them. The Gemara pushes on further. You might have thought maybe when there are different types of korbanos mincha, maybe those can't be traded. Marcheshes versus machvas, shezu ma'asehem rakim, shezu ma'asehem kashim, because one of these types of korbanos yields a softer dough, and one of them yields a harder dough. Aval, perhaps. But maybe, perhaps, we should say that if the korban mincha is identical, let's say it's the Karesh family korban mincha, that's a marcheshes, and the Shechter family that is marcheshes, maybe because they're mamish the same thing, we should be able to trade. Says the Gemara, no. Talmud Lomar, v'charva l'chol b'nei Aaron tiyeh. Okay, fine. As of now, no tradesies. This is what the Brisa says so far. We're both Kohanim. If I want double bird and you can get double cow, I want double flour, you want to get double bird. Any iterations therein. No trading. No trading. Whatever you get is what you get. It says the Gemara, maybe these rules only apply with the highest level of a korban, which is kodesh. It's kodesh kodesh, kodesh hakodashim. However, aval yechalku b'kachim kalim, maybe with less severe but still very holy korbanos we can trade. Tamalomar ish ke'achi v'samochle im al toda. These two psukim, one speaking about kachim kachim, one speaking about kachim kalim. Kishem sheim cholkim b'kachim kachim, kachen cholkim b'kachim kalim. Very good. So no trading at all, not b'kachim kalim and not b'kachim kachim, nothing at all. And then one last part, which is really not relevant to what we need, but it is part of the brisa. The Gemara says ish. The pasuk earlier had said ish. Ish cholek afilu bal mum, that a man who is a kohen can get his portions even if he's a bal mum and can't do the avoda. Vein katan cholek v'afilu tam. But a kohen who's a katan cannot get his portion even if he isn't a bal mum, even if he's a regular guy. Okay, end of brisa. Let's go back to where we started so we can hold cup. Abaye said there's still a machlokes, Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Yossi. The question was, if I take some of my korban and I use it to be makadesh a woman, Rabbi Yehuda says you're not married. Now, this brisa seems to be very, Rabbi Yehuda says you are married. Says mikudeshes. That's what he says on the bottom of Nun Beis Yud Beis. This brisa seems to say that there's no trading at all. It's not yours for personal use. If it was for personal use, I can trade with you, but it's not. It's all gavoa. And says the Gemara, we're 2/3 of the way down, 3 lines into the wide lines. Stam Sifra money. Who's the author of a regular brisa in Sefer Vayikra? Rabbi Yehuda. Oh, so now the Gemara is pulling an ace out of the sleeve. If we know that the general author of brisa in Sefer Vayikra is Rabbi Yehuda, and if in this brisa, and over here the stam brisa, which must be Rabbi Yehuda, is showing that there's no chilukim. I can't take your mincha and give you my bird. I can't take your zvachim and give you my mincha. Nothing. Why not? Because it's not mine. So what would the din be over here if I was mekadesh with nothing? That shows us the Rabbi Yehuda's shita is still alive and well, which means that there's taka machlokes. Because whereas Rabbi Yehuda on the previous page says mekudeshes, here it seems he would say eina mekudeshes. So now we see that maybe Rav is right, and there's still a machlokes between Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Yossi about getting married with a piece of a korban. Amar Rava. Rava says 2/3 of the way down. Ucherav Milo Tanya. This is going to be a problem for Rav no matter what happens. Why? Let's take a look at the Brisa. The Tanya, there was a time in history where there wasn't enough lechem upon him to go around. Everyone would get a little tiny little piece, not even a kazais, a very small amount, like a pool, like a very bean size, a very small amount. Hatznu and moshchenes yadein. The people who were more modest, who were more holy, they didn't take anything. But the Hagar Geranim, those who were starving, chulken, they would take portions. So what does this brisa show you? That you can take portions, even of the lechem upon him, which is a very kodesh item. Kasha and Rabbi Huda. So says the Gemara, no. It doesn't mean that they were doing something correct and divvying up, I'll take 2 of your portions and we'll trade. That's not what was happening. My chotfin, they were grabbing incorrectly. They should not have been taking it. They did the wrong thing. This is the end of that brisa about the tznuim moshchenes yadeim. The Gemara says, somebody took his own portion and the portion of one of his friends, which he should not have done. Says the Gemara, ben chamson adiyom moso. This Ganev, who took a double portion of a small amount of the lechem upon him, earned the name of a ben chamson. This guy, the man who grabs, this guy who grabbed things that he shouldn't, that guy got that nickname for the rest of his life. That's not a good nickname. It's not good. And says the Gemara, we have psukim to prove it. Amar Rabba bar Rav Shila Mikra. What's a pasuk that indicates that the word chamsan means to grab something when you shouldn't have? Says the Gemara, Elokai, paltenim yad rasha mikaf ve'avel v'chometz. Someone who grabs things that they should not. Rabba Omer mihacha from a different pasuk. Limdu heitev dirshu mishpad ashro chamotz. You should make straight or make happy those who were stolen from. That's where the word chamotz is used in the negative. And therefore, Rav's shita has been questioned. If we were poskim, and we're not, we would assume that at this point the halacha is like Rav Yochanan. Rav Yochanan holds there's no machlokes between the shitas of Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Yossi, and in both cases the din is lo kiddush. That if I take a portion of my korban and propose to a woman, she is not married. Why? Because it's mamon gavo. It's not my money. It belongs to somebody else. That brings us to the 2 dots, 3/4 of the way down.
So it's as if she was never married, right?
Yep.
She doesn't need to get.
Nothing. It's 0. It's like getting married to a street lamp. Like there's just nothing happening. There's no mechanics that could lead to this. This is not his money. It's mamon gavoa. You want to go take a corner of the mizbeach and break it off? It's not yours. You can't do it. Machlokes, right? But Yochanan's conclusion was that everybody holds that there's no marriage here. All right. So at the 2 dots, 3/4 of the way down, maybe 4/5 of the way down, we had learned in our Mishnah about the case of Meiser Sheni. Meiser Sheni, bein b'shogeg, bein b'mezid, lo kidesh tivei Rav Meir. Rav Meir was of the opinion that one way or the other, it would not work. You cannot get married with Meiser Sheni. It's already a shtickl chiddush. You can eat Meiser Sheni. So we have to figure out, this is different than a korban. Why is Rav Meir so makbid? We're going to spend time on this in a moment. Let's finish out the quote from our Mishnah. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, shogeg lo kidesh, mezid kidesh. By accident, you're not married, but on purpose with Meiser Sheni, you are. What does that mean? By accident, you're not. If you know you're doing something wrong, then it works. Very odd. All right, let's get into it. How do we know the shita of Rav Meir? Rav Meir was of the opinion that a person cannot be mekadesh with Meiser Sheni. Why is he makbid bein b'shogeg bein b'mezid? In the name of the Gemara. This was the tradition at that time. Everybody was on the same page. Rashi, 4 lines from the bottom. Dibur hamaschel mishmei de Gemara. Kach nikba b'Gemara. Ushkura b'fi b'nei Beisam. Everybody knew this. It's Moda ani lefanecha Torah tzivulanu Moshe. Our level of Shogor B'Fiv is very low level. They memorized Mishnayos. We might know a couple of things here and there. So everybody knew this. What did they know? The pasuk says, "B'chol ma'aser ha'aretz mizera ha'aretz mipri ha'eis la'Hashem u'kodesh la'Hashem." What's the drush on u'kodesh la'Hashem about ma'aser sheni? La'Hashem hu v'lo l'kadesh bo isha. This is not for you. The ma'aser sheni doesn't belong to you. You can't get married with it. Says the Gemara. Wait 1 second. there's another area of halacha with another similar pasuk, Hare Truma. In regards to Truma, Trumas Meiser, Dechsiv, Kain Tarimu Gamatem Trumas Hashem. The previous pasuk by Meiser Sheni said Kodesh Lashem. Here we see Trumas Hashem and Vitznan. What do we know? Hamakadesh Betruma Mekudeshes. That if a person were to get proposed to from Truma, she is married. So why by Meiser Sheni are we saying that if it says Kodesh Lashem, she's not married? And by Trumas Meiser, when it says Trumas Hashem, they are married. So says the Gemara, because the Loch Siv Be La Hashem. It's Trumas Hashem, yes, but it's not Kodesh La Hashem. It's not inherently Kadosh. It's a very gentle Chakira. Wait 1 second. Another Kasha. Hare. 5 lines from the bottom. Chala. From the world of Chala. Dechsiba Titanu La Hashem. There we have the word La Hashem. So maybe we should say by Chala that they're not married yet. What do we see? Bitznan Hamakadesh Betrumos, and Chala is a form of Truma. Important note, because otherwise this Gemara is difficult. Mekudeshes, says the Gemara, yeah, but that case of Chala also is lacking something in the pasuk. The pasuk of Meiser Sheni had the word Kodesh, but over here by Chala, by Truma, the pasuk doesn't say Kodesh. Delochsi be Kodesh. What about Shvius? Hare Shvius Dechsiba Yovel hi Kodesh Tielachem. The word Kodesh is found by Shvius. And what if a man proposes to a woman with Shvius? We saw this already. Utnana Mekadesh Beperish Shvius Mekudeshes. Here we see the word Kodesh. Says the Gemara, no. Deloch Siv Be Lashem. Namely, in order for there to be a limitation on getting married with any of these items, we need a double language, Kodesh and La Hashem. If you have both, like we have by Meiser Sheni, no marriage. But by Truma and by Chala and by Shvius, they have one of those words or versions, but not full versions of those words. And therefore, in all of those cases, the Kiddushin works. And the reason why, according to Rabbi Meir, why Bein B'Shogeg, Bein B'Mezid, you're not married if a man proposes with Meiser Sheni, is because it says in the pasuk Kodesh Lashem. Finally, the Gemara throws down 2 lines from the bottom. V'arei Truma Dechsiv Kodesh Yisrael LaHashem Reshis Tuaso V'Tnan HaMekadesh B'Truma Mekudeshes. Another pasuk by Truma. Look what 2 words it has. It has Kodesh. It has LaHashem. What? Some of us. What? It's also why this pasuk wasn't quoted earlier. And everything's coming from the psukim. So now the Gemara is grasping a little bit. It is reaching a little bit. It is because divrei Torah means like divrei Kabbalah lo yalfinon. But nevertheless, the Gemara does bring a beautiful text proof. And let's just articulate that if the Nevi'im were calling that Kodesh Lashem, yesh b'tzeh davar ma. So what then were the Nevi'im trying to teach us? Says the Gemara, Hahu b'Yisrael ksiv. That was to make sure that Yisrael knew what was going on, that the Truma was Kodesh Lashem. Turning to the top of Nun Gimel Amud Beis. Yeah, that's true, but still, the Lav Mimela Shamas Mina. Shouldn't we have known that this was Kodesh Lashem? Rashi, the Lav Mimela Shamas Mina Bitmiya. The fact that the Nevi'im are calling it Kodesh Lashem means that we should also call it Kodesh Lashem. So Kasha, the Gemara says you're 100% right, and the reason why Rav Meir was of the opinion that we don't use Meiser Sheni to get married is not because of psukim that have Kodesh Lashem. He changes gears. Answer number 2 says the Gemara, top of Nun Gimel Amud Beis, Tirgama Ravin Saba Kamei Derab Amar Kra Hu Behaviyaso Yehe. It needs to be exactly like it is. It needs to be in that initial form. In the initial form of Meiser Sheni, it's useless. She has to bring it to Shalayim. That's the only place she can eat it. And Behaviyaso Yehe, you cannot get proposed, but you cannot get engaged with Meiser Sheni, and that's why. And we basically undo the last 12 lines of Gemara. What about Shvius? What about Meiser? Nothing. Done. The reason why is because Behaviyaso Yehe. All right, buckle up. We had learned in our Mishnah 2 different half shitas. We learned 2 different half shitas. We had said in our Mishnah that Rabbi Yehuda Omer b'shogeg kidesh b'mezid lo kidesh. All right, so I skipped a line, sorry. Uve hektish b'mezid kidesh b'shogeg lo kidesh. In regards to hektish, if we were dealing with hektish, a man takes something that's hektish and he proposes. If he does it on purpose, they're married. If he does it b'shogeg, they're not married. And then Rabbi Yehuda Omer b'shogeg kidesh and b'mezid lo kidesh. Rabbi Yehuda was the opposite. Amar of Yaakov, Shamis minad Rabbi Yochanan Tarte. Two things I learned, but I don't know how to interpret them. The Shigigas Meiser de Rabbi Yehuda and the Shigigas Hektish de Rav Meir. These are the two things that I need to understand. Shnehem, in both cases, by the Shogeg of Meiser according to Rabbi Yehuda, and by the Shogeg of Hektish according to Rav Meir, they both say that she's not Miskadeshes by him, but for different reasons. Chada, in one case, if he she'ein isha rotza, one case because a woman wouldn't want to. V'chada, and in the other case, if he she'ein shnehem rotzim, v'lo yadana haiminahu. And I don't know which one is which. Is it that in the case of Shogeg Meiser of Rabbi Yehuda, that's where only she's concerned and he's not? Or do we say no, that in the case of Shigigas Meiser of Rabbi Yehuda, they're both concerned? Which one is it? So Amar Rav Yirmiyah, Nechse Anan. Let's analyze. We'll see two different approaches here. We're trying to figure out the case of Shigigas Meiser Rabbi Yehuda and Shigigas Hektish according to Rav Meir. We know it doesn't work, but why doesn't it work? Here's approach number one, a quarter of the way down on Gimel Amud Aleph, according to Rav Yirmiyah. Let's analyze. Let's talk about Meiser. We said by Meiser that Shigigas Meiser according to Rabbi Yehuda, if I propose b'shogeg with Meiser, she's not married. Meiser ihi lo nichala, if it's Meiser sheni mishum tircha de orcha. A woman doesn't want to get proposed to with Meiser sheni. Harei at mikudeshes li b'Meiser sheni zu be'elat kidas Moshe v'Yisrael. Now she has to schlep for like a week to get to Yerushalayim and pawn that into dollars. A big schlep, or pawn the dollars into food. That's very annoying. But ihu by him nichale, because why? Because he's done now. Because once she gets that food, once she cashes out, they're married. But ela hektish, maybe when it comes to hektish, he would disagree. And tarvayu lo nichalahu denaschil hektish al yadai. Perhaps that when it comes to hektish, neither of them want to be involved with hektish because nobody wants to be involved in making hektish into chulin. Perhaps that's true. But Rav Yaakov Amar Ipcha Mistabra. I give you the exact opposite svara. What does he say? Milo, Ikola Meimar, couldn't I argue a third of the way down on Gimel Amud Beis that Meiser, when it comes to Meiser, Ihi lo nichala mishum tircha de orcha, and Ihu lo nichala mishum onza de orcha. He said to her, Arad Mekudeshes liba Meiser Shenizu. She's annoyed she has to walk for a week. He's annoyed he has to wait a week for them to actually be married. So maybe that doesn't work. Ela hektish, but perhaps by hektish, bishlama ihi lo nichala, the naskil hektish al yada. Maybe it's uncomfortable for her if she's proposing with hektish because her acceptance of the hektish is making the hektish chulin. But lemaisa ela ihu mi lo nichala de nikni itza memela. But he's willing. He doesn't mind because they're instantly married. So we don't know how to attribute which approach to which person. Is the Shigigas Meiser of Rabbi Yehuda where only she's concerned? Or is the Shigigas Meiser of Rabbi Yehuda where they're both concerned? And the same question can be asked in regards to the other case, which is the Shigigas Hektish. What? The Shigigas Hektish. Do we say that she's the only one who's concerned, or he is? We don't know the answer to that. Machlokes. Couple of quick questions. 2/3 of the way down. Ba'minei Rava Merav Chizda. Isha ein miskadeshes maos maushi yetzu lechulin. If in regards to hektish, a man proposes to a woman, and you're telling me lemaisa that she's not miskadeshes, what's the story with the money? Is the money chulin now, or is the money still hektish? Did you ruin it? So says the Gemara, Amar le isha ein miskadeshes mo hechach yatzu lechulin. If they're not married, if nothing happened, okay, you're a fool. But if nothing happened other than you opening your mouth saying Haread Mikudesh Asliba Hektish Zukadas Moshe Yisrael, you're not smart. But nothing happened to that money to lower its status. Another question. What if I use Hektish as a sale? Again, not a good idea, but I take Hektish money and I buy a car with it. So it says the Gemara, what's the deal? Amar le'af b'mecher lo kana. If you use the hektish money to buy a car, your transactions is mekach tos, 0. Says the Gemara, nisht pashut. It's not true that the mecher is lo kana. Why not? Because Esvei, we have a brisa from Maseches Me'ila. So Sefta actually. Here's the deal. In regards to Me'ila, we know that there's this person called a shulchani. A shulchani is a cash changer. He's the kaspo man. You walk up to him with a $100 crisp American bill, and he rips you off and gives you way too few shekel. That's what he does for a living. Good for him. That guy changes money so many times that if I give him Me'ila money, I'm not even the one who violates Me'ila. He is. Because it's so obvious what's happening here. Shulchani, we know what's going on. A balabai is a guy like me. My money doesn't, it does change hands too rapidly, but the average person has a bank account, money sits in it. You don't trade your coins every day like the guy at the Costco man. And then there's a balabayis who's the balabayis is that guy, and then in the middle is the chenveni, is the store owner. So here's in order. The balabayis has the least money moving. The chenveni, the store owner, has more money moving, and the shulchani has the most money moving. So it says the Gemara, how do we treat a chenveni? The chenveni who has in the middle, he's not quite a balabas, he's also not quite a shulchani. So the Gemara says, chenveni kebalabais divrei Reb Meir. Yehuda Amar, chenveni keshulchani, a machlokes. Is a chenveni in regards to Me'ila more similar to a balabais, in which we know the balabais is not such a big mover with money, or is he like a shulchani? So this is a machlokes between Reb Meir and Reb Yehuda. Says the Gemara, Ad kan lo kamiflage elo demar saber chenveni keshulchani umar saber chenveni kebalabais. This machlokas Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Meir is only about how we define the chenveni. Is he more like the balabais or more like the shulchani? Aval the kule alma im hotzi ma'al. Everyone agrees that there's me'ila. So if everyone agrees that there's me'ila with hektish, that means that the mecher was a mecher. Something transacted. You told me 5 lines ago that if I take hektish and try to make a mecher, it doesn't work. That's not true. Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Meir both say that it's me'ila. Oh, so therefore says the Gemara, no. Rav Meir was only saying the L'dvar of Rabbi Yehuda Kamar. He wasn't saying according to his own shita. He was saying according to others. Lididi, says Rav Meir, im hotzi nami lo ma'al. There's no me'ila. I hold there's no me'ila. Nothing. I hold there's nothing. But elo lididcha, Rabbi Yehuda, according to you, otli miha the chenveni kabal habayis. At least admit to me. I know the shulchani. You're okay. I agree with the shulchani, but the chenveni, you should at least agree with me that he's like a bal habayis. No, lo keshulchani. So that the Gemara says is his answer. Amar le lo keshulchani. But lemaisa, the reason why this is not such a strong question is because Rav Meir wasn't talking about his own shita. He was talking about Rav Yehuda, and if Rav Meir wasn't talking about his own shita, that means, as the Gemara already said, that Rav Meir himself holds that there's no me'ila in this case, and Rav Meir holds that there is no mecher with hektish. Let's review this last piece. The Gemara posed a question about mecher. If I take hektish and I buy something, I transact with you, I buy something from you with hektish. The Gemara says there's no mechira. The Brisa says that there is mechira. No, only according to Rabbi Yehuda. But according to Rav Meir, with hektish, no kinyanim, 0. Which means it's also not chal. You didn't profane it and make it into chulin. Still hektish. Okay, very good. Omar Rav says, Chazarnu al kol stadim shel Rav Meir v'lo matzinu hektish b'shogeg ein mischalel b'mezid mischalel. Look, I know we have our Mishnah where Rav Meir distinguishes between shogeg and mezid, but says Rav, I've scoured everything. Remember who Rav was, a Talmud of Rebbe. He had all of the Mishnayos, kimat as we have them today, sitting in front of him, and probably on some papyrus with Rabbi Yehuda's handwriting, Rabbi Nasi's handwriting. He says, I've watched everything. I've gone over it. We've never seen this distinction of Rav Meir that something can be, and hektish can be, b'shogeg is not mischalel, and with mezid it is. So therefore he says, our Mishnah's taka not talking about that. Mishnah Seinu is talking about something else. B'kitones kihuna shelo balu. We're talking about the garments that a Kohen wears, shelo balu, that are not worn down, they're in good shape, says the Gemara. Hoel v'nisnu lehanos behen, lefi shelo nitna Torah l'malachei asharis. Now, when a Kohen is given this garment that he's supposed to wear as a Kohen, that garment is Kodesh, belongs to the Beis HaMikdash. But be'etzem, you can't tell him that he can't have any hana from it. It's not possible. If it's cold out, he's warmer. If it's drafty, he's got some clothes on. There's a degree of hana. So says the Gemara, hol v'lo lehanos, v'lo hol v'nitnu lehanos behen, because he's allowed to benefit from it. Lefi shelo nitna Torah l'malachei asharis. This is when Rav Meir says that b'shogeg ein mischalel, but b'mezid mischalel. He doesn't say it in general, only in regards to the ketones of the Kohen. Asks the Gemara a question. Wait 1 second, I need some clarity. Nun dalad amad aleph, 6 lines down. Tashma, ketones kuna shebalu moalin bahem divrei Rav Meir. Rav Meir says that there is me'ila in regards to this garment, which is not what we said earlier. My lava filu lo balu. Would this also be true even if there wasn't balu machlokes on the previous shita? Lo balu dafka. Rav Meir only holds that way if they are balu, not if they are lo balu. So our case was talking about lo balu, perfect clothing. But if they are balu, there is me'ila. Tashma, another question. Moalin bechadatin, ve'ein moalin be'atikin, divrei Rabbi Yehuda. We learned about this many moons ago in regards to shkalim. The shkalim in this, it's in the, where's shkalim? It's in the last seder of Shas. It's after Pesachim, no? Oh, we learned it already. Couldn't remember when it happened. So Pesachim shkalim. Oh, that maybe that's fine. Maybe. Okay, so we learned over there about the Maseches HaShekel, and there we said that there's me'ila with new coins, but there's no me'ila with old coins. Shita Rabbi Yehuda. What does Rav Meir say? Rav Meir Omer moalin af be'atikin. There's even me'ila by the old coins. Rav Meir Omer moalin b'shiur halishka. Rav Meir was of the opinion that there's me'ila even with leftovers of the lishka. The lishka was where all the monies were kept, and you can have me'ila even by old coins. The Amai, why would you say that? Let's invoke the rule that Rav just said, which is name ahol v'nitnu lehanos lefi shelo nitna Torah lemalachei ashares. You are allowed to benefit from it. How do we know that we're allowed to benefit from the lishka, from the money, from the coins that were atikin, that were old? Says the Gemara, we've walked by these structures. The walls of the city and the towers were built from those dollars. So pashut that those dollars are going to be usable. Ditnan, chomaser migdaloseh b'chol tzarchei by mishari alishka, kashan Rav Meir. Says the Gemara, lo tema Rav Meir ela ema Rav Yehuda. Wrong name, sorry, typo. It's not Rav Meir, it's really Rav Yehuda. Kasha is dissolved. Again, last question of the day. This will take us to the very top of Nun Daled Amud Beis, and we'll stop. We're right now 2/3 of the way down. Our third question on the sheet of Rav that we just learned. Toshma, Titania, Amar Rabbi Shmuel bar Rabbi Yitzchak, Avnei Yerushalayim shenashu moalin bahen divrei Rav Meir. Be careful. The stones of Yerushalayim, if they fall out of a wall and you use them, me'ila. I don't know what the walls of Yerushalayim are as it relates to this halacha. Does it mean the excavated rock around the Makam HaMikdash? Maybe. Does it mean the outer wall, what we call the western wall, the Kosel HaMa'aravi? I don't know. Be careful. Rav Meir says that there is me'ila with those things. Says the Gemara again, no kasha, lo tema Rav Meir, ela ema Rabbi Yehuda. Says the Gemara, hold on 1 second. Ema Rabbi Yehuda, Yerushalayim mimekacha. Yerushalayim held, Rabbi Yehuda held that those walls were not Kodesh. After all, v'hatznan, ke'imra, ke'dirim, ke'etzim, ke'ishim, ke'echal, ke'mizbech, Yerushalayim. If I say that this bread is holy, just like an imra, like that animal, ke'dirim, like that pen of animals, like the wood, like the fire, like the heichal, like the mizbech, like Yerushalayim, what does Rabbi Yehuda say? Rabbi Yehuda Omer, kol Omer Yerushalayim, lo amar klum. If you say Yerushalayim, it's a zero. L'chora, Rabbi Yehuda was of the opinion that the walls of Yerushalayim were not Kodesh. You can't swap out Rav Meir's shita over here with Rabbi Yehuda. That doesn't fit. Says the Gemara, V'chitema mishum delo amar ki Yerushalayim. No, Rabbi Yehuda does hold that the walls are Kodesh. But that's when you say it's Ki Yerushalayim, not just Yerushalayim. You're going to make a piece of bread holy by saying Yerushalayim. That's not, it has to be Ki Yerushalayim, just like Yerushalayim. If you want to say that, that can't be. V'atanya, Rabbi Yehuda Omer, Kol Omer Ki Yerushalayim lo Amar Klum, Ad Sheyidor Bedavar Akara of Yerushalayim. You can only talk about Beis HaMikdash stuff that is insufficient. So now we see that Rabbi Yehuda is no longer a viable replacement for Rav Meir. The Gemara says on the top of Nun Daled Amud Beis, and with this we'll close, Trei Tanoininhu ve'aliba de Rabbi Yehuda. There actually is a machlokes about Rabbi Yehuda. Do we say that Rabbi Yehuda holds that the walls of Yerushalayim are inherently Kodesh and that perhaps there's Me'ila? Or no, there is no sanctity to the walls of Yerushalayim and perhaps there is not. On Shabbos, we'll pick up in Mir Hashem with a blot and a half, the balance of Nun Daled Amud Beis and all of Nun Hey. These blot are not terribly long, it appears. And then 2 days in a row. I have a very rough schedule this coming week. Tuesday and Thursday we'll have shiur in the mornings. If I can swing it, I still have to look. The next week, Tuesday and Thursday, same deal. No shiur at nights. I'll text everyone all the information. If I can't give a proper shiur with people here, I'll record a post. Stop right here. Wishing you all a beautiful night and a beautiful Yom Tov.